Good morning, good afternoon to everyone who has joined. Thanks for joining our webinar on decoding the largest SAP S4HANA transformation, co-hosted by Kaar Tech, Albilad Arabia, and BaasKaar. And today we have Rajesh VD as the speaker, who is the head of SAP Transformation and Center of Excellence at Kaar Tech. He has 20 plus years of expertise in providing SAP solutions. He is the head of K Cloud, SAP HANA Cloud Infrastructure as a Service, and also the pre-sales and SAP transformation. He is also having a unique distinction of handling the largest SAP S4HANA transformation project. Without intro, I'll hand over the session to Rajesh to get started with today's agenda. Hi Rajesh, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Vaishnavi. Very good morning to everyone. Thanks to all for joining this session. Appreciate you taking your time, and I hope this session, 1 hour session with you, sharing my experience on the SAP transformation journey is of value. I'll just quickly brief you on the agenda. I have taken three high-level points, just to give you a background, what a large transformation looks like and how the transformation is planned, and then talk about some of the key elements that I perceive as success factors for the transformation that I'm engaged with, and finally some of the lessons learned. So I'm sure most of you in the audience will have some experience, some understanding on the various SAP transformations. So I'm not getting into detail of what is a transformation, how it happens, and so on. And I rather spend this time to share my experience with handling a large transformation, the complexities of a large transformation, and how it was successfully handled. And that's an ongoing program, and we are nearly 30 to 40% completion. But however, there is a lot of lessons learned, and I believe this will be useful for some of you who are planning to initiate your transformation, or in the process of transformation. So just to give going to the first part of the agenda, where I'll just explain you how a large transformation looks like. Though I'm not in a position to share the customer information, but somewhat indicative is what I'll try to do, so that it's easy for you to follow and understand. So, and then also quickly brief you on the various approaches available in the transformation, and how this roadmap can be established for you, for your organization, and then you execute this transformation. So very typically, any large enterprise will have multiple instances, multiple applications, multiple SAP solutions. And what I depicted here is, a typical scenario where you have ECC systems, you have the master data management, SRM, HCM running on ECC, supply chain management, CRM, and GRC enterprise portal, warehousing, mobility solutions, EHS, planning and optimization, and all these are interconnected using SAP native ALE connections, or middleware such as PIPO, or non-SAP middleware is also possible. And then you're also communicating with other enterprise applications such as identity management, and so many other things that you might have in your enterprise. And again, also these systems are connected to external systems. So overall, what generally any large enterprise, over a period of a decade or 2 decades, would have accumulated so many various application systems, instances, and that are interconnected and working harmoniously to provide business the required outcomes. And on top of all this, you have a lot of add-ons, especially large enterprises. We see in every system we touch, there are 20, 30 add-ons that are running on that. And then you have industry solutions, and then you have heavy customizing. So this is very, the difference between a medium to large enterprise and a very large enterprise is where these are the areas where you see there's a heavy customizing. What I mean is you'll have tons of Z objects, and you have accumulated a huge volume of data. Your database are running on terabytes, and you have very complex operational environment. In order for you to support this kind of a complex landscape, you will have tools that are integrated, that are connected to these systems. You will have operational tools, and then application lifecycle management tools, and the test management tools, test automation tools. So all this put together is what your landscape typically looks like. And it may not be typically exactly like this, but I mean, this is mostly the scenarios that we have seen, and some customers we have seen that they have migrated certain applications to the latest solutions offering from SAP. But this is just a quick depiction, and also your solution could be deployed on-premise, hybrid, or cloud. All this combination is also possible, and that's what I have seen in multiple conversations that I have with multiple enterprises across the globe. And coming to that, so this is the transformation. Now we are talking about legacy SAP applications that have to be migrated to the latest solutions, and I'll come to why. But before that, just to give you a quick idea, like all your ECC must transform to your S4. MDM it has to be migrated to MDG within the S4, and so on. So you have S4 HANA, and you have HCM for S4 HANA, which will be delivered end of this year by SAP, and it will be available for the customers to use from next year. You have BW for HANA, C for HANA, GRC is upgraded, has to be upgraded to 12.0 for utilizing some of the new features, and then huge amount of services, extensibility services, integration services are available on the business transformation platform, which is called BTP, which is a cloud a platform as a service offering from SAP. And apart from that, all the SaaS products such as Fieldglass, Ariba, SuccessFactors, Analytics Cloud, IBP, and so many other solutions that are available in the SAP store for the customers to source and adapt on this new platform. So the journey of any installation base, the large installation towards the newer solution is what we term as transformation, SAP transformation in context of current times. Now, I mean, the drivers, most of you are aware of the drivers, just to re-emphasize. Of course, there are innovations on the IT, and there are trends like the digitization and so on. So the global trends, economical, environmental, there are a lot of environmental compliances that are required these days. And for any public listed company, there are certifications that are required. Those compliances require you to have certain systems. Then technological disruption, and then what we see as the new normal with all the digital age. And of course, the competitiveness, you have to be ahead of your competition, especially when it comes to IT. IT is no more operational. It is very strategic, as you all may know. And the other very key driver, and in fact, most of you might be planning your transformation for this reason, which is your business continuity, because support of most of this application that I have shown here on the top is going to end somewhere between 2025 to 2030. Okay, and so in order to ensure that your applications are supported and working, so you definitely have to plan for the migration to the latest solutions. And finally, there's a lot of business value that organizations see, on the digital space. So there are plenty of digital use cases that organizations, based on the industry, they can adapt. And here is an opportunity for you to reimagine your business process. Since most of the customers, that large enterprises, they have implemented a decade or more before, and they want to relook at how the enterprise is structured, how their financials are structured. They probably want to take this opportunity to restructure the enterprise as well as adapt to some of the best practices and industry solutions. So this gives you an opportunity for many customers to reimagine their business on the ERP system. So having given this as a background for any large transformation, where I'm emphasizing that it is not one application they're migrating, it is a suite of multiple applications in a complex integrated environment that has to be migrated. So what are the different transformation paths available? So very quickly, I want to touch upon this. And I mean, most of you would have heard about this, that you have basically three approaches, which we call in general the brownfield, bluefield, and the greenfield. So, and brownfield is the normal system conversion. So when a customer is moving from ECC to S4HANA, it is a SAP provided tool that performs this activity. It converts the application from ECC to S4HANA. So, and you retain all your customizing, you retain all your data, you are not forced to adopt any of the latest applications. You rather will be utilizing whatever your earlier transactions, and only except for few cases where there are certain transactions and applications are deprecated, so you might be forced to use the Fiori transactions. Otherwise, this is the easiest route to get to S4HANA, and without losing your data and your customizing. And large customers do end up doing this, as they, because as I introduced, they have a huge customizing, custom development, and they have a huge data footprint which they need. And of course, on the right hand side, you have the greenfield, where almost 50% of the conversations I had with and the approach the customer has taken is, they have gone for a greenfield approach because they want to restructure their processes. They want to adapt to best practices. So there is the greenfield approach, which we all know. And then we have something in between, which is the blue field, which is called the selective data transformation. So basically, you could do the similar to brownfield conversion, but you can select the data you want to carry. You can carve out certain part of your historical data, or carve out a specific organization because you have a demerger scenario coming, or you want to consolidate multiple ECC systems to one. All that is possible using the bluefield approach. And here you can also do a mix and match also. So basically, bluefield is a slightly complicated approach. It's not a straightforward, but there are I think large enterprises should definitely know that there is a possibility of doing such carve out, such consolidation, because that in the particular case that I'm working, we have all these scenarios, all the combination of these scenarios are existing for each of the instances or applications they have. And just to give you, a quick comparison here, on the business process transformation, as I told you, brownfield, you just take it as it is. So it is slow. And on the bluefield approach, I mean, you have an opportunity to do certain harmonization when it's a consolidation scenario. That is, you're merging two different ECC instance to one, and you could probably have some process harmonization. Okay, and that is possible. But when it's a greenfield, you have a huge possibility of redefining your processes. Historical data, you can take everything, because brownfield is everything. As I told you, bluefield is selective, and greenfield, of course, you definitely take master data and open transactions, but historical data you leave behind, or in cases where it is required and it is of huge business value, and you have to do some historical analysis, you can take the historical data. Probably it can be a mix of bluefield and greenfield. And finally, on the custom code, you have, on the Brownfield, you retain everything. Bluefield, you can retain, but in greenfield, you have to rebuild. Whereas business downtime is optimized here. Actually, brownfield was not that optimized, but in the recent last 6 months, there are many enhancements provided by SAP, and I'll come to that topic little later, and which is very optimized. And then you have a Bluefield, where which also talks about near zero downtime. And when it comes to greenfield, of course, you have the data and cutover activities that you have to consider for your business downtime. And especially for large organization where some are critical, mission critical applications running, this business downtime becomes a very critical subject and a topic to be discussed in detail. So how is the so before you start your journey, you do have to perform an assessment, and the customers I have worked with have performed such assessments, and mostly they have taken the help of SAP, sometimes using SAP Max Attention Services. They are able to come up with a clear roadmap. So basically, it has three phases. Where first is you have to understand from the business point of view what are the drivers for this transformation. So that defines the why of it. So business evaluation is performed, where you also match the industry trends and map the relevant innovations, value drivers, future trends. So all that is analyzed, and the first activity of business evaluation is performed. Next is the technical evaluation, where your midterm system architecture and system landscape and the solutions, available solutions, and the planned solutions from SAP, your custom code, and all the simplifications, potential simplifications are analyzed, and that defines the what. And finally, the how which is either a brownfield or a bluefield or a greenfield is determined, and all this thing is put together to develop the roadmap for any large enterprise. So this is a 3 months to 6 months exercise that the customer engages with SAP, and and also probably this is the time when SAP also discusses with you on the licenses and subscriptions. So apart from that, you also on the analysis, you also perform some sort of a risk profiling to understand, how the systems has to be positioned and what are the dependencies. So basically, we use some criteria like customization, integrations, testing, these criteria, and we create a heat map, and that gives us a reasonable picture to look at the systems or instances or applications that will have a critical path, as well as requires a deeper assessment. Okay, so this is a typical assessment how it happens, and after the assessment, what you will get at a very high level is a roadmap like this, where in a typical case, I just put somebody starting from 2021, 3.5 years roadmap, wherein he could start with success factors phase one, and the cloud integration, business transformation platform, analytics cloud, and then move into his S4. And parallelly, because there are certain applications you cannot take it. You have to be conscious here. The thing is, sometimes your old application may not work with your S4. So those applications you have to take it together in one go as one big bang. So those dependencies has to be charted out. And in case we had a situation where the customer had to, SAP did not support the connection, but they had to custom build it so that the transition phase, both applications are working, and post S4 they migrated the other application. So all such situations would arise, and so when you do this roadmap, you identify them and put those pieces stacked against each other to determine your roadmap. So here, this is a very simple, situation I have demonstrated. But usually, there are customers with multiple SAP instances, So in this case, I'm just showing one ECC system getting consolidated into S4, but they may have multiple ECC instances getting consolidated, and they will have multiple more such projects. So in this program, I'm showing like 5 to 10, around 7 projects, but typically it could be anywhere between 10 to 20 projects for the entire transformation. Now getting into the key elements. As I briefed you in the start of the call, I don't want to discuss some of the general, topics with respect to transformation and conversion. I want to be very specific on areas which I find was very key to the success of the program that I'm participating in. And one such item is how the organization structure looks like. The transformation organization structure looks like, and why that gave us, a good ability to execute the transformation. And then what were the preparations done? Okay, and how about the test strategy? I mean, these three. I mean, there are many other things that I can highlight, but considering the time today, I just want to highlight these three are the top three areas that I've seen, and that is primarily responsible for the success that we are seeing now. So coming to the organization, as you see, any large enterprise has its own IT support and project teams that are embedded in the company, either entirely the employees of the enterprise company, or could be in conjunction with the partner support. So now, what we have seen in more than one such large transformation is the organization creates an internal transformation organization, assembling people from various IT areas. So so typically this is one of the very key success factors, I would say, because your journey is 2 or 3 years towards this transformation, and there has to be a lot of knowledge that has to be acquired, and also during the journey there's a lot of knowledge that would be has to be carried forward to deliver these solutions. So this transformation organization, as I said, has an internal plus SAP plus partner team, and this organization will start at the time of assessment, and then post assessment they'll continue through the execution, and they have an exit strategy after the all the executions are completed. This organization's work is completed. So I mean, it is of course headed by a sponsor and a program manager and a project management office. Then you have the transformation organization, where you have a team of core expertise. These could be from technical background, functional background, and certain, especially finance and logistics, are the areas that you definitely want to consider. You need from data management, archiving, and also you want somebody from roles and authorizations to be part of this core team. And then as we saw, this program had multiple projects. For each project you have a project manager who's also part of the transformation organization, change management, and of course you have a lot of dependency on infrastructure and operations, especially when you go for brownfield and selective data, you are actually you'll have to run with parallel landscapes. At some point we will have for one instance we'll have like 10 to 12 parallel instances running in different stages. So the support from infrastructure and operations are very key. So they have to be part of your core team. And of course, a team for procurement and support for software and infra. They have to be all part of the transformation organization. So this in the context of large organization, this is very important. And of course, as I mentioned, the IT areas that are being supported within the enterprise, they will participate based on the system that is in the migration. They will be roped in, and their counterpart, the business subject matter experts and business owners would be participating. So typically, in the project that I'm working, we are looking at around, at any point of time, more than 150 stakeholders, across these various levels, and anywhere between 30 to 40 in the transformation organization. So this is important. You establish, if you want to start this journey, you establish this transformation organization, ensure that you enable them with SAP, and ensure that they are there till through the journey. So this is with respect to the organization. Then how, again, also what was important is how we governed this project, as a program, how this was governed. So at the sponsor and the program management level, we had defined very clear milestones. We had the risks and issues tracker that was on a weekly basis reviewed for every project. And then from this level, there was a monthly management update, and then on the project level, we had a daily stand-up call for every project. And these are mainly handled using MS projects, main, and there are main projects and sub projects, and of course Excel and other test management tools that we have here. So this is a very critical area, and this is where I probably would like to touch upon in the lessons. So governance is very important. And this is, again, even before you start your transformation journey, this is something I would strongly recommend that you start. So basically, any customer can perform this analysis. It's not that you need a specialist, or probably you can take help of a partner, or even SAP. So the roadmap analysis, the one which I was in the start I was showing. But apart from that, there are so many tools available within SAP, like your ATC report, SI check, readiness check. So such reports can be executed, and that will give you a list of actions that you can perform. So basically, here you have to identify what are the deprecated and standard transactions, what are the deprecated business functions. So you can start planning for it. You can plan towards. So these are prerequisites that I believe before you start your transformation as a customer, you can do a lot of preparation, and that will keep your transformation journey very lean and easier. So you can also identify the Fury apps, those simplification items that are available for you. You can do test readiness, which is very important. That as since you are supporting your landscape, your application for years, you know what has to be tested, and to put that in a structured format so that a test management tool can be utilized. Or it's very important, because I'll show you, later stage the number of test iterations that you'll be performing. You need to have this information much ahead of time. And then you can also plan your landscape requirement. You can look into your custom code utilization, role utilization. So once you have this information, you can start implementing them even before you start your transformation, such as the business partner, new GL, material ledger, cash management, credit management. These are some of these are prerequisites. And you can also start archiving your data. Your data footprints might be running in multiple terabytes, and there's a huge opportunity. At least 20 to 25% I have seen reduction in the data footprint before the transformation. Then unused clients are a big headache, because unlike upgrades or EHP upgrade that you have seen, this entire transformation or conversion is about data. An unused client will have a lot of bad data, and these data will give you a lot of headache. So if it is not utilized, it's of no value. Across your landscape, plan to delete all your unused clients. And look for your add-ons. Add-on management is a separate work stream by itself. You have to ensure that you have upgrade version of your add-on, or it's going to cause headache for your business downtime. Data reconciliation strategy. So as I said, the transformation is hugely about data. your standard testing where you test your application, your scenarios may not be sufficient, and you have to uh, consider a lot of data related scenarios, test scenarios. And of course, you probably, before you start your transformation, you can plan your to implement your landscape for your transformation. Clean up custom code, huge opportunity for you to remove the codes that are not required, that you have accumulated over 1 or 2 decades. Roles cleanup is also important, because when you start your transformation, you don't want you want to have a lean list of roles that you want to tackle. And the SI report issues, there are a lot of inconsistencies and data integrity issues that the SI check gives you, that you can fix across your landscape up till your production, before you start your transformation. And the ATC check is your ABAP checks that also, I mean, if you have, thousands of ABAP objects, and if you run your ATC, there are around 25 to 50% of them you can fix it on the ECC itself. You don't have to wait for your S4 to start your ATC. So there are plenty of prerequisites that you can perform even before you start your transformation, so that your transformation is much leaner. So this is one thing that we have adapted, and we see a huge benefit, and we are able to control the project schedules. Now, very important is not also to plan your testing. See, as a methodology, what we are utilizing is the SAP Activate. If you go to the transformation navigator in SAP, you'll find SAP Activate for conversion. Around 200 or 300 activities are there, but you probably have to review them, and based on the context, utilize it. So we are following the same thing, and then in the preparation phase itself, you plan for you have a strategy for your test, and you also plan when those would be conducted. So so testing is all about performing multiple iterations and testing. So first we start off with a sandbox conversion during the explore phase, which defines the complete plan for the execution. And there is a basic IT testing performed, which shows, okay, where all there are gaps, and what are the issues are identified here. So this is the first level that happens, and then there is within that phase, once you have a reasonable lessons learned. I mean, the first sandbox conversion is usually the longest, and that's what we have seen in the multiple cycles. So it is the longest, where you learn a lot of things, and then you apply and perform your conversion iteration 1. Okay, and where more or less you have addressed 80-90% of the issues, and you probably discover around 10%. And this is where you also plan to perform your complete IT testing and integration system test. So again, what I'm indicating here by PC is it's a production copy. So all this you are performing on a production copy. Since the reason why we do that, irrespective it's a brown field or blue field, is because this conversion or transformation is a lot about data, and so you have to perform on a production copy that gives you the real issues. And then you perform the second iteration, conversion iteration, as part of the realization, and where you also perform the complete IT testing, and you also give the same system for the end users to perform the UAT. So this is how we have done. First, second, and third iteration we go for the UAT, and then we perform 2 dress rehearsals. Okay, and in the first dress rehearsal, if there are certain scenarios, that issues that were not resolved in the first UAT, we use the first dress rehearsal to perform the open or the delta issues that has to be addressed, so that we don't lose time keeping utilize the dress rehearsal. And then we perform 1 more dress rehearsal, where we do almost or very near what we will do in a production scenario. So basically, when you do all these iterations, you're not just testing and you're not just doing that, but also you're performing and rehearsal for your business downtime. You're estimating and optimizing your business downtime. So post that, you start the actual landscape, because all this time you're doing on a parallel landscape. Then you have your development quality completed, and you do your finally your production. Again, I wish to say that that we have learned how to perform all this in a very short time, and at certain points, we had like 4 or 5 iterations happening in parallel, and with a good technical team, this was possible. And these iterations are very important, considering the large enterprises have large user base and applications, mission critical applications. So this kind of testing was very important. And when it comes to greenfield, where you want to migrate the data, as well as system consolidation scenario, the phases are more or less similar, except that instead of conversion, you will be doing data migration. So in Explore, you'll do a migration assessment, and on the realization, you'll perform 3 iterations of production data migration. So otherwise, more or less the steps are same in both cases. Jumping to the lessons, I'll take another 10 minutes and probably leave the last 10 minutes for any questions, if any. See, this was, some of them are, I have just picked some of the top issues that we faced. The test management was very, very difficult. As we saw that, when especially these large enterprises, some enterprises do have a release management platform where they have a proper test management. But in many enterprises, what the applications and the scenarios are a very tribal knowledge, and it's very high level. Those test cases are captured. So that granularity was not there. So that's why I say the maturity of test management was low, and that surfaced as some issues after we went live. And also because of the non-availability of the test, when I say test data, I'm talking about test catalog, test cases, scenarios, and so on. Managing the schedule was very difficult, because we had teams across geographies, and performing tests, and they're running into hundreds of people, okay, who are performing the test. And in order for us to look at the progress on a daily basis, plan versus actual, and issues reported on time, was a bit of a challenge, because we didn't have a proper test management. And if my recommendation, if anybody wants to start off with this transformation journey, look at your test management maturity, and also look at adapting to some good tools, test management tools. Again, the catalog missed data related scenarios. As I keep emphasizing, this is more about data. So not usually our test scenarios are not about data integrity, and we don't check how, if before and after, if there are the number of records, we don't do that. But probably this is a lesson for us. And also, you will be subjected to external audit after the conversion, and the auditors are looking for what kind of strategy, a test strategy you had, or reconciliation strategy you had for data, because the auditing companies like PwC and EY, they know that this transformation is subjected to data conversion. So validating the data is very important. And as I said, this complete test management was a nightmare, because it was a manual collaboration, and visibility on the test progress, as well as coverage. Whether all applications or all business areas and process groups and processes, scenarios, steps are covered, or this has too much dependency on manual reporting. Again, so data, there are a lot of issues related to data that we discovered. in fact, there has to be a bit of awareness that you have to create within your organization, within IT, that this is not an EHP upgrade. They must know that your data is going to be transformed. There are tables that are going to be merged. There are records that are going to be merged. So, having said that, it is important that you also look for data related issues. So one of the things is SI check, the SAP tool provides you with a lot of these issues much before you start off. Once you start off, you will have some, and then you can keep clearing that. So it is important that you clear, you don't ignore. I mean, you have a choice to ignore. There are error codes that you could go and say, let me ignore it. But that has to be a very conscious decision, or in fact, take SAP's recommendation also, if it is okay to ignore. Otherwise, it's better to invest and fix those issues. And like SAP does give you, for finance and certain logistics area, they give you the data reconciliation. But in spite of that, we have seen that especially when you have done some custom extension to standard tables and you have other reference to an data element that was deprecated, even though you have remediated the table, but the data may not flow in. So it is important that you have some means and methods to verify all that. And also, start of the project, also prepare yourself for external audit, because after the project, that's a nightmare that you have to provide all the information with respect to what you have done during the project. Then another very important lesson learned, or again, it's quite painful, is the Fury adoption. See, when you go for a brownfield, you are looking at a technical lift and shift where your platform goes to S4, but there is not much of business applications that you're adapting, the latest innovations you're adapting. So Fury adoption is key, for business to see the value. Business is going to invest so much time and so much effort into this transformation, and they will not see any value. So the phase 2 of the project is where we do the Fury adoption. After we do the conversion, we start the adoption project. So much before that, you can come up with your plan, what you want to roll out. And this Fury is actually your ambassador for your entire transformation. So everybody is going to ask you, okay, where is the Fury application? What you have shown, what SAP has shown. And so that becomes your ambassador for this transformation. So also, a lot of things, what we realized is, after we thought it's just merely activating and rolling Fury application, but there's a lot of stress on having your landing page, which becomes your branding for your S4 and your other applications. So you probably should consider these are certain work streams. We missed this out big time. And also the enterprise search, which is one of the very good features that S4 gives you to search, like Google like search. But the search connectors has to be customized. If you release as is, people are going to see junk unless you ensure that the context is maintained for every search connector. So that's one of the lessons learned. There is a huge impact and roles and authorization, so you should be prepared with the resources for that. And much earlier, you have to define the scope of work much earlier, so that you can roll out these Furies much faster. Do the quick wins like analytical fact sheet apps, and also prepare for large enterprises. The one thing what I've commonly seen is the customers are unable to use the app as is, so they have to go in for customizing. They need Fury and CDS developers, so you have to plan for this. And also we saw that so there are certain reports or transactions that work with archive data in SAP GUI, does not work in Fury. So this is about Fury. And quickly, I just have 2 minutes, so probably I'll just touch upon the downtime. Business downtime is required, and you have to prepare your business stakeholders. So you can do archiving for optimization, and you should use all your iterations to record the time taken for each activity, so that you can plan your business downtime. I mean, there are so many activities you can do beforehand, and so many activities you can do after you go live. I mean, it's not necessary that business, it has to be on the business downtime. So all this learning, because once you identify, you should perform a dress rehearsal to make sure that that works. So you cannot. You should have at least one dress rehearsal for the sequence that you have planned. So now I have seen multiple conversion cycles, and there are close to anywhere between 200 to 300 activities that has to be performed in a very orchestrated manner. And if you plan it well, you can control your downtime. And of course, there are services like from SAP and other STT partners where they say it is near zero downtime. So what we call it as NZDT. But however, I would like to say that the latest SAP DMO is highly optimized. It has two options, do conversion and do migration. And even though we have not used the do migration, which was the latest release, but with the combination of these two, I think you can get the most optimized downtime. And if you're planning for NCDT, but there's a huge effort involved. So, but I believe with these two, you can achieve a very good downtime. So this downtime planning and downtime optimization is very important area. Again, of course, organization change management, and finally, you have to consider the expert resources for such transformation is going to be a challenge, considering the fact that the market, the demand is very high, and also availability for travel is a challenge that we have seen in the project. So work, that's why I say work anywhere has to be enabled. You have to mature that piece. So enabling workplace, remote workplace, collaboration platforms like Teams, and please consider having all the possible tools for your transformation. I mean that will help you in the execution, like your test management, your project management, your program management tools, and risks and issues, and so on. So with this, I wish to conclude the lessons, and I hope what I shared is of value to you, and I open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. So a 10 minutes forum is open for the Q&A. And Rajesh, we have 4 questions so far. So I'll read it out for you. What is the difference between sure, Rajesh. What is the difference between HCM S4HANA and SuccessFactors?
Yeah. See, many customers, large enterprises, are not in a position to move to SuccessFactors, both on reasons of security and the ability of SuccessFactors to customize. So, there was a pushback to SAP to retain the old HCM. So, and now, SAP has a roadmap to move the HCM towards SuccessFactors. So, this was a very conflicting scenario they had. But SAP finally allowed the customers to retain the HCM by making that as a separate component in the S4. So now customers that are having HCM on ECC, when you convert that system, it becomes an S4 system, but your HCM is running on something called compatibility mode. Okay, so a lot of those old system applications can be used in compatibility mode, and HCM is one such component. But for HCM alone, SAP came with a solution called S4 for HCM, wherein you basically carve out the HCM component and you can keep it as a separate instance. Also, very recently, I heard you could probably carve out and keep running it on the same instance as an add-on. Functionality wise, my understanding, there will be no change. It is just demarcating what is S4, what is HCM, technically inside as a separate component only. But this is something they have given, and I think the support is available till 2030. And if you want, I can share the the SAP notes related to this. I think every 2-3 months they keep giving an update, and by end of this year they will release that, and we probably will have more idea on how that transformation will happen.
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. And another question is how to migrate Z development module to HANA DB.
See the ATC check, when you perform the ATC check on your ECC system, and you can say the target platform, you can say that S4 2021. So it is going to find all those areas that has to be addressed, and code has to be adapted. And even the tool, the ABAP cockpit has automated features where it will propose the changes that you have to perform. So first is you have to enable your team to optimize codes on for HANA, and then also look at tools like what SAP provides, as well as Kaar has a tool called Katen, which provides you such features where automatic code adoption is possible.
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. And we have another question. Like it is mentioned that SGT only selective data is migrated to S4 system. In case if entire historical data is needed plus process re-engineering, what could be the approach?
See, in such cases, if some customers would prefer to go in for a complete greenfield, okay, so they might choose to go in for a complete greenfield. They want to restructure their enterprise. They wish to utilize the latest best practices, simplification items. You can go in for a greenfield. That I'm talking about the one extreme, and select the areas where you want to take the historical data, such as maintenance orders or your material movements and your purchase orders. So you have to select those critical areas where you want to take the historical data. The SDT tool has the ability to move this into your S4. And but always remember, when the moment you have this as an additional, so you have to plan for the efforts and the cost for this kind of an additional work stream. And so one way is going for a complete greenfield, and another way is going for somewhere in between, where you say, okay, I will harmonize, or I will only certain process I'm going to change, or I'm going to only restructure my finances. You don't have to go for a greenfield. You can do a shell conversion. So basically you create an S4 without a data and do a configuration where you say my configuration on master data to restructure your finances, and then you move the data using SDT. So both ways are possible.
Okay, Rajesh, thank you. And another question is how you will deal with WRI CEF objects from the exploration phase till the cutover phase. Also, is it similar to SOH with respect of basis administration such as HANA Studio and other HANA softwares?
If you are referring to brownfield, there is a phase called code adaptation, custom code enablement, we call it. So the custom code enablement, we start, as I told you, you can start as a prerequisite. You don't have to wait for your S4 transformation. So if there are out of your 10,000, 10,000 custom object, like 6 or 7,000 are impacted, you can find out from your ATC. You can remediate 2 or 3,000 on your ECC landscape itself. You don't have to wait for your S4. So then you are waiting with a smaller list. And then when it comes to your preparation phase, where we said you do the first sandbox iteration, and then you create an S4 system, then that on that landscape you go and perform the remaining price object remediation. So we in fact after doing this multiple times, in fact handling like 100 200,000 custom objects. So I think this doing it in these stages, we feel it's a very efficient way. And even though it looks huge, when I say 200 300,000 custom objects, but it is manageable.
Yeah, okay, Rajesh, thank you. So if anyone have any queries, please do post it. Else you can send or drop an email to gvaishnavi@kaartech.com. Thank you, Rajesh, for the session. And thank you everyone for joining the session. So hope everyone's question is answered. So we can close the session. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Thanks, Rajesh.
Thank you. Thank you all.